Here we go. Welcome to Inside the 18. I'm Michael Magid, live from Hollywood, California. With me, we got the whole team. We got the whole team together. Finally back in action together. 99 World Cup winner Saskia Weber, Las Vegas Lights goalkeeper coach Omar Zini, and making her triumphant return to Inside the 18, we have KC NWSL goalkeeper coach Alli Lipsher. Alli, the season's been happening. You finally made it happen.
It's happening. Yeah, it has been happening after a very long preseason. It's been rolling. I think we just crossed the halfway mark.
Nice.
That's awesome. I mean, obviously, the first time that we had you on, for people who weren't familiar, you hadn't actually begun your season, and a lot of the things that we were talking about were like, I think we just need to have Alli back once the season starts, where we can actually start going over some training design and how the saves have been going and all that sort of a thing. So why don't we kind of catch up everybody on kind of like what's happened since last time we were on the air and you guys finally started the season and your first pro gig here.
Yeah. So start of the season, as you guys know, is a long preseason for everybody. We've been rolling kind of since, it's like late March, early April. And I mean, if anyone's been following our team, it's no secret that we've been struggling a little bit. But on the goalkeeping side of things, it's been a whirlwind. I mean, I've gotten to experience just about every aspect of kind of what a professional team and a professional goalkeeper roster goes through. I mean, we've brought people in, we've had people leave, we've dealt with injuries, we've dealt with multiple injuries, and so it's been quite the whirlwind, but it's also been a pretty great experience overall as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the really cool things about that whole thing is that both you and Omar, had you even gotten your pro gig when we had Alli on, or were you still still just a college coach? Not just a college coach, but you know what I mean.
Wow.
Yeah, no,
I didn't mean it like that.
When was it again? I forget the last time.
Gosh, it was like January. I feel like I was in quarantine. I was just sitting in like a basement, like an Airbnb or something.
No, I did not know yet. No.
Yeah. So this is actually kind of cool. Both you guys, both first kind of pro experiences. Kind of both at the same kind of point in the season as well, too. Kind of both at the mid-season point. Omar, do you want to give a report card as well on your end?
I mean, it's been a whirlwind for sure. We started off rough, but the team kind of putting the pieces together. The first team, unfortunately, is going through a rough patch right now as well. So things around the office, even though when we get a result, it's like no one really cares because it's like the first team didn't get the result. So, but it's tough too when you have you're the second team. They take all the players that they need and they give us the guys last minute. So I've had to kind of work with our goalkeeper and find ways to communicate with him to help him develop without actually getting ball time with him or actually being on the field. So it's been tough.
Well, I mean, and by the way, Alli, feel free to step in at any time. But obviously you're not in that same situation with the second team. You're at the highest level right there. But has there also been a little bit of a transition straight up from the college game? And again, like last time we had talked, you hadn't actually started your season, in regards to just the culture and how things are done at the pro level, or because you had played at that level, you were kind of familiar with it already?
No, there's absolutely a transition. And I think that I anticipated it pretty well. Like I had an idea of what it was going to be. So I went in kind of as prepared as I could have been. But being, first of all, this is a very long season, so it's at a very high level for a very long time, and kind of having to be at that level every day is really where kind of I think the biggest jump is. The preparation that goes into training, the preparation that goes into games, it's all, I mean, it feels exponentially greater than what you would do at the college level. And some of that is that you have, more resources. And some of that is just that the demands of the game are so much greater that a lot more goes into it.
Yeah. I mean, I think, obviously, Saskia has, seen it from both sides, coaching, playing at the highest of levels. Saskia, we're off the air. We were kind of talking about the fact that with the college season now for the highest level collegiate athletes in the Division I level, they've kind of had this split season that's not really a split season because it's kind of almost been kind of like one continuous season because the summer was so short. Does it feel a little bit more like a pro environment because of that?
No.
Okay.
No, not really. I mean, because you're still, it's not pro. It's totally different. 100%. I mean, you're off the field. You're off the field. You're going home. You're going to therapy. You're doing your things. These girls are, they're in school. They have a lot of other things going on. So, with that being said, even the the regular season being this past spring, it was a quick turnaround. It wasn't. I mean, technically, they would have had spring season had everything been normal last year. So I think that our older players are used to just having 2 months off or a month and a half off in the summer. I like it because they all came back really sharp and fit. They didn't have time not to be, really. So that's awesome. Yeah.
Well, it's funny that you said that because, Omar used to always kind of talk about one of the things that was a struggle for you. And I'm not trying to throw you under the bus here, Omar, is that you said because of the collegiate system, because of that long break, it was a lot easier especially when you're talking about younger kids and stuff like that, who might not have the maturity level of a professional to kind of get unfit, but obviously, now for both of you, Omar and Alli, obviously there's an expectation now. There is no such thing as ever coming in unfit. Like, we expect you to be a pro throughout the entire season, the year.
Yeah. And luckily, with the extended season, you also have some time to build into fitness because you can really only maintain fitness for a shorter period. So with college, that just feels like that. It's like that real sharp kind of incline decline with it. And then, with the pro, I think at the pro level, because you have more time, it's maybe a little bit more of a gradual build.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. And personally, for me too, just as from a coach's perspective, I've enjoyed when we've had more breaks now, because in the college system, you just obviously, hey, make sure the goalkeeper is ready for 22 games. Hopefully, you guys go to the national title game, or go all the way. But you need to make sure that you're not putting anything in their head, whether you're breaking down film. You don't, because we have a game 2 days later. So that's what the coach would tell me is like, hey, I like the ideas, I like what you're doing. However, if our goalkeeper messes up, you need to support him. I'm like, I'll support him, but I want to break down the film. He's like, well, we have a game on Wednesday, so I don't want him to get in his own head. We have a game on Sunday as well, so I don't want him to get in his own head for that game either. So just as bare minimum as you can, and just progress him through the week. With it, the pro game now, we have way more days, and we can break down film that we can actually expose what we saw in the film in training. So it's just like, for me, it's more of a project, and I really enjoy that process a lot more.
No, that's true. Yeah, I mean, because right now you're like, depending on their load, and like we have to prepare for, the next day. And so as much as you want to work on stuff, which you can within your training, you also have to go into the next game, go into the next team pretty quick.
Yeah. But Alli, for real quick, Mike, I'll take the MC for half second here to ask both these.
You can take it for longer than a half second because again, the UEFA gods have completely messed with us right here and decided to make a game go into extra time right as we start doing the podcast.
But no, question for you guys. I mean, and now that you guys are coaches, but from your playing careers, I feel like for myself as a player, I didn't necessarily enjoy when a coach. No, I don't mind them being hard, but like overly critical, like too much to the point where I'm like, hey, like I have an instinct. Let me play with that. I know there's a standard. I understand the standard. But for you guys, do you guys feel like how you wanted to be coached? Is that how you guys are currently operating your set of goalkeepers?
That's a great question. I think that I am much more aware of when I am critical and when I'm not critical. For example, game day -3, we're picking out mistakes. The intensity is up. We're trying to perform more complicated actions at a higher level. Like we're trying to put fatigue into the mix. So my criticism and like even just like the communication that I give a goalkeeper is very different from game day -1. And it's like, oh, you dropped the ball, forget about it. Let's move right on. And so yeah, I think I don't think that I was really in touch with that as a player. I think that I maybe, and I don't know how you guys feel about this, but like I was just like, go as hard as you can all the time. And maybe that was a reflection of when I played a million years ago, but I don't know. I feel like I'm a much different coach than I would have been maybe directly after I was done playing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I think I look at things much differently than when I was a player. I think I agree. I think it was like, just go as hard as you can, head down all the time. But maybe it was a long pause, or maybe it's this podcast or whatever it is. I'm like a much different coach than I ever thought I would be, I think.
And I'll say even this, and I know that this question was not directed towards me whatsoever, but I'm just going to throw myself in there right now. I played this weekend. Well, we could call it I was there. I was there this weekend. I was there. I don't know if I'd call it playing, but I was there. and I recognized a lot of the things that I was doing and the way that I was behaving was counter to how I want my players to behave and how I want them to handle situations and things like that. So it was really weird to get back into that playing environment and see the growth that I've had as a coach has made me finally recognize it in myself, these kind of detrimental habits that I may have, you know. And Alli, I don't know if ever step in the nets there and kind of see that happening as well too, or you're like, no, I'm good. I don't need to do that.
No, I tell you, just have to keep that lure there. Like, this is how you're supposed to do this, how I did it, which might not be true, but they'll never know. So,
They'll never know.
They just can assume.
Omar, have you stepped in at all this entire season?
I did last week. And because we had we wanted to play small sided, and our starter was with the first team. And the coach was like, hey, I need you to play. And I showed up. I had everything taped. And it was crazy is the goalkeeper who was on the opposite side was getting peppered the entire time. And I made like 2 or 3 saves, but I walked off the field and I joked with him. I was like, Donovan, I think I moved up the depth chart. I think you moved down. And he was just laughing. But it, again, to the point of that though, like I played in a tournament, Mike, and you guys know in Armenia like 2 years ago. And I got scored on where a ball got hit to the far post and the ball was kind of lofted and I matched the pace of the ball and the guy headed it far post and I never got set. And I couldn't change direction. And I remember thinking to myself, like, holy crap, like I emphasize this in training, but now I was just exposed for something that I always coach. Yeah. So it was just kind of reaffirming a lot of the things. And I think if you do get to coach for a little bit, try it and then go back and play and you realize, oh my God, okay, these are things that I don't really harp on enough, or these are things that I don't give the goalkeeper the benefit of the doubt enough times.
And I'll be straight up honest. I think that's one of the reasons why, you know, it was great for me to get back out there and play. And I want to keep playing because I think it humbles me. And then also it gives a different perspective because I start feeling a little bit more empathy for the player because I'm like, oh, this is what this feels like again. Cause it's been a while and I forgot kind of what this feels like. And now it's not theory anymore, you know, now it's something that's through application, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you know, both, you know, Alli, you and Saskia, you know, you guys played, you know, at the professional level. And so, you know what it's like to be in those environments and stuff like that. And I feel like that is extremely beneficial to your goalkeepers because maybe somebody who hasn't been through that, you know, they don't know what it's like to play in front of 20,000 people, you know, people right behind your goal, you know, screaming and yelling, that sort of thing. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I can have empathy without having to get back in the goal.
I'm gonna empathize from the bench.
It's so true. Because I would tell you, Omar, if that happened to me, if I got in and something like that happened to me, I would never live it down. Like Lauren, Hannah, those guys would just be like, "Oh, really, coach?" You know? I'm like, "Do as I say, not as I do."
Well, speaking of, go ahead, Omar.
No, last thing too, and I think one thing that I've tried, and Alli, you made a good point earlier, is like you have things to say, but it's choosing when and when not to say it. And I feel like that's been my biggest in terms of a maturity level. If I'm looking in isolation from like the first day of college up until now, kind of understanding that I don't always have to make a technical assessment, or I don't always have to make a correction. It's more so now I'm at the point where I'm like, one, I know your ability, so that's if you make a mistake, I know you're just as frustrated as I am. However, also too, like if I start to see a pattern, then I'll say something about it. But I don't try to attack the guy or the goalkeeper that I work with just because they make a slight mistake. They're already in their own head. They don't need somebody else compounding that voice. So I think again, it's just like understanding, and it's a skill. You really do, because sometimes I'm like, I didn't say something, but like, does he think that I don't know in that moment, but I really do know that I have something to say, but I don't say it because I'd rather you not feel as if I'm against you in those moments.
Yeah. Man, I think that's a really, really good point, Omar. Let's move into this topic here, because I think this is actually going to talk about empathy, and obviously in the simple fact that, there's a lot of people that have different kind of thoughts and feelings in regards to how you should step, when you should step, all that sort of stuff. Guys, today's topic is actually going to be the prep step prior to the final action. Alli, for maybe some parents out there or maybe younger goalkeepers that don't know what we mean by this, what do we mean by the prep step?
So I was actually I was hoping to snag you guys earlier, and for me, the prep step is it's a little bit self-explanatory. It's how we prepare ourselves for a final action, and for me, it's about two things. It's about momentum and it's about balance. And how do we control both of those things? I think the most common thing that we recognize when we think about the most simple final action is maybe like a dive, a collapse dive even, is what we think of as like the power step, right? Like that leg extending from our body, that push that we get to get our hands to the ball. And for me, what a prep step does this idea of a prep step is it allows us to stay balanced for longer, and it allows us to have momentum moving into, again, that final action. So if you're having to transition from a collapse dive into an extension save, which typically happens, then you're able to do it with more balance and more power. So for me, it really comes down to those two things. But I wanted to make sure that I was on the same page with you guys about that as well.
I mean, you're on the same page with me at least. Omar and Saskia, I don't know if you guys have anything different that you want to add to that, especially Saskia, since you were known as El Gato, and how quick your feet were.
No, I agree with that 100%. I think you also can steal a little bit of space angle wise with a prep step. I think it's anybody that doesn't time it right, or doesn't have a small little preparation step, it gets very difficult to move laterally from like a solid grounded position, like whether it's to extension dive, whether it's to collapse dive, even if it's like to explode and come out. That quick prep step helps you with all of that. It's a rhythm that I find like invaluable.
Yeah.
I mean by that, and we talked to Ron Took about this. That doesn't mean you're hopping into something. You know how I hate that. Like, you're not hopping, because your timing could be off. You could be like in the air, and we're not talking like a jump, but like, we talked about that with Franz Hook. Like, some people that don't do that prep step properly you're losing a millisecond, and now you're off. So this is, like I said, it's a rhythm. It's something that has to be trained.
Yeah. I mean, adding on to that, Omar, I know something that obviously you've brought up in a lot of times in your videos, when you really break stuff down in a slow motion movement. I think a lot of younger goalkeepers start actually recognizing how small this prep step can be, because they see the final action, and in their mind, they're seeing a giant movement. They're not recognizing that small little step. So I think it's fantastic that you on your channel, have broken this down, for young kids to see that step, that foundational step, is there before that push off.
Yeah, that's the issue too, is that not enough kids actually watch their own footage. So they'll watch De Gea, they'll watch Kepa, and like obviously those for me are and probably Neuer as well. Those are the two guys who do the huge arm swing, and that's their prep step. But again, like Saskia, it's like a rhythm. It's like you almost, it's like a trained movement that you've been working on forever. But for it to be trained, you have to be aware of it. And a lot of young kids will watch those guys and never actually assess their own movement. So they try to do something that is probably not best for their size or best for their visual triggers, whatever they see, and they get caught doing it at the wrong time. So I think, again, film yourself, understand how you can best, I guess, make it more optimal to get back to the ground and then push off and go, or secondary action, whatever is in front of you. But I think that's really what it is actually film yourself. Don't watch other people, film yourself, and then really dissect it for yourself.
That's a really great point, because obviously everybody's physical attributes are completely different. And Alli, I'm sure you've seen this before too, where a young kid, especially when you were coaching at the youth level, will show you a clip of so and they'll be like, oh, so this is what I'm trying to do, and you're like, that person's like a foot taller than you, and a little bit quicker. So we may need to adjust things based on where you are physically right now.
Yeah, definitely. And I think actually Abby, one of our goalkeepers, maybe she's like El Gato Dos, but she has incredible footwork, and she's someone who I think really embodies the potential of the prep step to the point where you rarely see her extend because her footwork is so good, kind of going into those simple movements.
Yeah, and that's a really good point that you just brought up, Deb. And obviously, we're going to watch some clips of Abby in a second here. But if again, and Saskia, you bring this up all the time, like if you don't have to extend because your feet are that quick and you're able to shift your body, then there's no need to extend. There's no need to move farther than you need to.
Well, it's more, why make it more difficult for yourself? I mean, I just got hammered footwork by Tony and stuff, and Blage and all of those guys. So, I didn't have to extend that off. I didn't have to power dive. I could, I wanted to get there with my footwork, cover it as quickly as possible and make the safest save possible. Don't make it more, and I think that with that prep step, I agree with you, Alli, 100%, that you, with that, your footwork being solid, you'll be amazed at what you can cover not having to extension dive.
Totally. And at the same time, like when you have both feet, when you are using your feet to get to the ball, like both feet are on the ground, right, for a longer period of time. So you're coming from a more balanced place. So you tend to hold more than you parry as well, which is another big difference for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. And I think, and that's a lost art. I mean, and when we've talked about this too. And I think one of the reasons a lot of times that kids think that they're making the right decision and steering when and we talked about it on Monday with Ian McCalden from Everton Women, is that, if you're moving in a shape where you can contain that ball, then contain that ball. You only steer it if the ball's breaking away from you and you can't contain that ball. And if you move your feet appropriately, again, having the ball in your hand, you're a much more effective goalkeeper than playing a ball for another reset, for another restart.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Go ahead, Omar.
No, I mean, kind of what Ali said, earlier about like kind of like -3, you can do a little bit more, not more coaching, but there's more things that you can try to expose with a goalkeeper because you have multiple days until the actual game day. So yesterday, what we did was cross goal movements, and I was working. I have to call it fast approach, slow arrival, and it kind of gets you to a point where you move quickly to a spot, get in ball line, and then from there, you've slowed down enough where now your legs can get picked up off the ground if you need to make a foot save or shift your feet again. And we worked on that yesterday to develop the muscle memory in the legs, some fatigue in the legs, but also too we had shooting distances where the ball was stationary, but I really wanted the goalkeepers. I had one goalkeeper who leans back a lot, so I was like, look, I need you to stare down this ball. I need you to really, really, while you are fatigued and getting from the center of the goal or the opposite side of the goal across, you need to be able to have strength in the legs and then be able to look at the shooter right in the eye. Sorry, my grandma's talking. Jesus, she just doesn't get it sometimes. But yeah, to look the shooter straight in the eye and just say, look, you're gonna have to beat me. But also too, making sure that if you are balanced and you have that mentality and that approach, I'm going to stay big. Now you can actually work on your steers because you have balance. And like Ali alluded to earlier, balance in the legs, but also too, if your legs go, then your body goes. But if your legs stay, your body at least has an opportunity to make a save and a clear direction. Jeez, this is out of control.
I love it.
This is the best. This is the best.
Grandmom's back. It's my favorite. I swear she needs her own show.
God.
Alli, no one in your background, no one walking back and forth on your background.
No, dog's not tall enough.
I know. Don't say that word, else mine will start barking.
Oh boy. So we won't jinx that. So Alli, really quickly, I want to talk about, because you were bringing up the whole balance thing, and I think one of the reasons why I personally, when I talk about a prep step and when I'm kind of showing it at the foundational ages, I'm talking about these minimal steps that keep you kind of equidistant and still balanced as you're moving, is because a lot of kids, if they take that step too big, they become so top heavy one direction. Now, if the ball is redirected, they've already overcommitted, and there's no way for them to reset themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you think about it, as soon as your legs leave a set position, as soon as your legs leave kind of the frame of your body, you're no longer balanced. I mean, if both of them do, then you're set too wide, but you're still balanced. But like as soon as one leg kind of leaves your body, you're unbalanced, right? You've got more weight positioned on one leg than the other. And what that prep step allows you to do is really, like to what Saskia was saying, you know, cover ground, prepare for movement. And then for me, gain momentum as you shift from kind of your back foot to your front foot. So when you do take that step away from your body, you've really got a kind of a direct line going to the wall, and you're really able. I mean, I'm sure my goalkeepers are so sick of me saying this, but just like that back foot, front foot transfer of power is so much more efficient to me, and so much more explosive, and kind of getting yourself from A to B.
Yeah.
I love what you just said there about the back foot. And, you know, I mean, this is something that we've talked about. I mean, Saskia, you've talked about this, that so many kids, they think that when they say like here, step forward or something like that, they think front foot, but it's an entire body that moves. So if you're stepping forward, your back foot is the is the foot where all the weight is coming from. So that has to shift with you. It doesn't just lock, you know, and I think that's a problem that a lot of kids have, if that makes any sense. Or
kind of.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Omar, save me here, Omar. Come on.
That was rough. I mean, the visual of that, and you can tell the wheels were spinning.
He saw me. I was like, where is he going?
I was like, what is he going with this? Okay, so here, look. I wish I could just get up right now and just show you guys what I'm talking about. So that step, okay, that foot, that inside foot. Okay.
Omar, tell your grandma to come back.
Alli, did I make any sense at all?
Totally.
Okay. Oh my God. My sessions have just completely deteriorated. Everyone is just canceled for the week. They've just like they've heard this right now, and they're like,
as long as you don't work on prep step, we'll be fine.
As long as
working on high balls.
I do want to bring this up though. I want to bring up pulsing, because this is something that, you know, I think Abby has a little bit of a pulse sometimes before she moves. But a lot of people, they say, you know, is this, in your mind, do you consider that a step, or do you consider that more just movement of the body?
I think it depends. Is it a pulse? Is it a hop? I mean, when Abby sets, she's really, really still in her set, and that's one of the things that allows her to be so good with her hands and so good in reaction. That's one of the things that allows her to be so good, is that she is very still in her set, but she is also very efficient with her movement. So I would say that she does pulse, but she's also good with timing. Like when she's set, like then she's beginning kind of that loading process, so she can unload into whatever save that she's about to, you know, to make. I think I don't mind a pulse with kids, because I think it's important not to get stuck in this idea that being set is being like grounded, because being grounded to me feels like weighted, and you lose a little bit of explosiveness. Like you know, you have to be able to coil if you're going to uncoil to a certain extent. And this idea of kind of having a little bit of like motion and energy going into your coil, I think is something that I can explain better, but also something that is necessary, and that you want kids to do. And as long as they're in a good position, and as long as, again, they're balanced, it's okay to have a little bit of movement. When that kind of pendulum swings too far is when you don't have ground contact as the ball struck, right? And like when you're setting late, or when like you're setting early, so you're trying to squeeze another kind of step in, or like the timing of that is really, really critical. But I think it's okay to encourage that almost over being like still and set in your position. I think once you've gotten this idea of how you move into a save, then we can work on coming from like that timing of like being still going into that.
Yeah. I think you just brought up just a really good point. And I never was thinking about this in regards to just with like the foundational goalkeepers, with the younger goalkeepers, is that, you know, I've recognized, and again, you know, Saskia, you obviously talk about literalization all the time. Omar, I know you do as well too. But that if you tell somebody to stop moving, a young kid, again, is going to get flat-footed and there. And because it's so much more difficult for younger kids to move, because they're not as dynamic and everything like that. Like you want to encourage them to learn how to move, learn how to move, learn how to move. If that makes sense at all.
Yeah, that was a little better.
Okay.
No, but I think I agree with Alli in a sense, like there's a lot of ways to do this wrong. Like you can set too soon, you can set too early. And I agree with the terminology. You're too grounded, you're flat, your weight is stopped. And then to move from that type of a position, type of a stagnant position is difficult. I was never a pulsar, that's what you want to call it, right? But my timing into my into that pre-stretch was that's my movement. So that would be like, that preset, that would be my movement. But some people, I agree, some people that little bit of energy, that pulsing is fine as long as it's your timing's right, and as long as you're not in a movement when you should be now setting and going. So yeah, I would rather have a kid have a little bit of that and then than just be like set and now try to move. Is that, do you like that? Set.
I love that, and I love the physical interaction with that too. So because now I just see you setting. Omar, anything you want to add to that, or are you kind of feeling on the same wavelength there?
No, I thought Alli did a really, really good job. If you could see me, I was nodding my head. It was everything you said was just right on point. But again, too, it's like for me, it's a visual and feel like discovery. Like you have to be able to watch your own footage and then be honest with yourself in those moments. It's kind of hard to sometimes say like, was I heavy in that or how did I feel? But when you actually watch yourself back, I think there's just so much value in that. So any young kid, again, you won't even notice. When I was playing, I got put the gloves on 2 years ago to prep for this tournament. And I realized that when I get set, my arms shoot down and my pulse, like it's like a weird dance move. I get low, then I come up and I get low. And I was like, mentally, I felt extremely light. Like I knew I could probably get out of that because maybe it's something that I've trained. However, from somebody else or a coach who watches me and says, hey, you're putting way too much weight. And that's probably what I would tell a kid because that's how I would see it. It's like you're putting too much weight. There's not enough weight going up. So maybe you should like even that out a little bit more. But it's like then I would tell my coach, like, look, I feel great here. I feel light. And then as a coach, you would say respectfully, okay, that makes sense. If you feel good, you feel good. But like you almost want to validate and have conviction in why you're doing something. You can explain it to your coach versus having them tell you and you kind of just blindly follow it. And it might not be the right pulse or the right set for you.
I think a good way to, it's just weird, a good way to look at it, I don't know why PKs keep coming into my mind on this. Because back in the day when you could kind of steal a little space forward, but it was that rhythm for me. And so it was that preset, boom, and movement. And that was light on my feet. Now, obviously, you get called for everything, but even watching people do lateral movement or pulse, you need that rhythm. It's hard to, like, if you look at a PK, it's hard to set and then go. Okay. But if you have that movement, if you have that little bit of a step or a little bit, then you're going to cover so much more ground with so much more power and everything. And I think it's just a good way to look at it. Like, am I set solid on the line and now I'm trying to move from this position? Or do I have a little bit of momentum with my movement?
Yeah, totally. I mean, if you think about it, if you're completely still, you're going to have to overcome just a little bit of inertia, right? To actually keep moving again. So you're putting yourself like not even like by giving yourself momentum, you're not even starting at zero. Like you're starting significantly further ahead than if you were completely still.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so funny. While you were just saying the PK things, I feel like we should just kind of just move to this right here. I want to actually play a PK of Abby's that she saved not that long ago. Let's see if I can get this to open on here.
See, what a good transition. I didn't even know.
Look at that. Okay, so let me find that clip here. This is against Sinclair, I believe it is. Let's see if we can find it. Here we go. Okay, so let's kind of play it in real time. Notice that inertia, notice that movement, boom, boom, boom.
Nice.
And now let's slow it kind of down. First off, that's a fantastic, I think that's a great PK that Sinclair took right there on her, low to the corner right there. And I think it was just a phenomenal save by Abby. Alli, do you kind of want to break this down and why this is such a positive movement by Abby?
Yeah, for sure. Can you like run through it slowly?
Absolutely.
And I'll try to I'll just try to color commentary while you go.
Okay.
Yeah, so you'll see here. Go ahead, keep going a bit.
Okay.
Abby takes,
Ooh.
she takes, I mean, it's almost hard to see. She's almost pulsing a little bit. Yeah. And she takes the smallest step going to that. She's super decisive, right? We scout PKs. We think we have a pretty good idea of where people are going most of the time. So she knows where she's going. So her prep step is already predetermined. She's not making, she has made her decision as she's, as she kind of starts that load. And then she's able, you can see right here, to put weight from that back foot into that front foot and really cover almost the entire half of that goal when she goes down
with power.
Yeah, she gets down quick. That's not a soft PK.
No, she struck that. Go ahead, Omar.
No, I think especially in these. I mean, I don't know if, in my opinion, I don't know if a PK is the best explanation for this topic, Mike. But we'll take it for what it is.
No. And trust me, I've got other clips.
It was
just because she brought up the PKs. Yeah. That's why.
No, but I think in general, I think Ben Dragobon said it really, really well. Who works for Seattle Reign? Still, right? Seattle Reign or Seattle?
No. He's got his own performance center. He used to work for Seattle.
He used to. Okay, well, he was saying that, he'll bring goalkeepers in and he realizes there's like a weight off in terms of weight distribution and which leg they prefer. And I feel like to make a save and to really, really give yourself the best opportunity to move laterally from a pulsing position or like a somewhat stagnant position, you need to be even and balanced on both legs. And in these situations, again, if you look at this PK, I'm sure as well, because you have a tendency or an idea of where that ball might go, you're almost like putting a little bit more weight on that right leg so that if you do need to go, the left leg, which is the outside leg here, can supplement that and really help you push. But I feel like that's probably the biggest thing, is making sure you get in line, but making sure that you have that little quick balance to balance yourself. And then from there, now you have somewhat even weight distribution on both sides, and you can attack either way.
This is, you can see it right here. You can literally see just right there. Mm-hmm. Just that little step right before.
Yeah,
boom.
She's already gone.
And then she's already gone. Boom.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
That is absolutely brilliant. Yeah, I mean, look, PK wasn't the scenario that I was.
Wasn't. It was just making me think of it, like when you watch some people do their movement and pulsing. That's all.
Yeah. All right. So let's go back to this one then. This is a play that I wanted to bring up. Let's see if I can find the right play right here. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, this is the one I wanted to play right here, because this is a good example right here. So basically what happens here, okay. So what happens is the ball is played to LaRue, and she basically recognizes as she starts going outside, she's kind of forced inside. She cuts, kind of forces inside. Abby kind of recognizes that she's got her near post nice and covered, but support from her defender right there. So LaRue tries to go towards the back post, and then we just see right there, you see that little prep step? Mm-hmm. Just to kind of shift, and then that looks like an easier save than it actually is, because her feet are so quick and she moves so quickly and she holds onto the ball cleanly like that. I mean, we can even play it in real time here. Boom. Because a lot of young kids will just let that dribble through because they'll be blocked out and then they won't be able to move across quick enough. Thoughts, Alli?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things I play here as well. She's able to take, that's almost a bigger prep step for her, and she's able to take that because that defender has that side sealed off. And what's dangerous is you have to trust your defender in these situations, because if that ball comes back through at all the other way, now we're almost overcommitted. But that's another thing that is I think important in this situation is Abby reads that this ball probably isn't going to come back to her right. There's a pretty narrow window for it to go through. So what her goal now becomes is the space that the ball can travel through, and she's really kind of prepping herself into that space.
Yeah, and then I kind of see that she kind of finds this hole right here, and that's why I think she takes a bigger step than usual, probably, is because she's trying to find the ball again so that she's got it. And then again, this is the difference between guessing, and making an educated and having an educated kind of feeling on where a ball's going to go. If that makes any sense. Yeah, I guess I'm all okay.
I mean, you have to respect that players at this level can do a lot with the ball. So there's no guessing in situations like this for sure. And she does, and she has a little bit of a wider set in general, especially when she's about to push. So those prep steps are typically for her much smaller than this.
I think also the scenario dictates, how big your step is as well too.
Yeah, here she's trying to come back towards the middle and kind of cover more space.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Omar, Saskia, anything you want to add to this?
No, I mean, even when you see her shift back, if you play it in real time, there's a little, even another little step before she, see it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you see it? So it's like another short little step, and then she goes down and she makes if some people don't take that other little step, then you're looking at maybe I don't think it was hit so hard, but that could be a deflection now around the post. But because if you play it, because she repositioned herself, then it goes,
yep.
See it? See the little
2-2.
one in there?
Boom, boom.
Yep. Now she preps, and then she can cover more ground, more space, and she can control the ball.
And I agree completely. I think that's one of the things that especially a lot of younger kids, when I'm teaching them to expand their range, is forcing them to take that little extra step too. Is that short, little, concise steps are better than trying to take one giant step. And by her recognizing that based on the pace of the ball, she can get one more step in before she goes down for it, it just makes it a very comfortable. Exactly.
Comfortable yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
I love that I still do this. I love that I point to my screen like you guys can see me, and I'm like, see it right there, and I'm like, nobody can see me pointing at my screen, but it's okay. There's just little fingerprints all over it.
Yeah. Omar, any thoughts?
No, I think you made a good point there, Mike. I think every scenario that's in front of you dictates a different type of prep set. And I think, for example, if you're going to, against Carlos Vela, who's coming down the right and he usually cuts in and tries to go far post, for me, I would probably start loading up, let's say, my right leg, just because I know if I need to start going, because he's going to try and curl it far post, I have an opportunity because I educated guess based on film, I can step and go. But also, too, those strikers are getting smarter. So as Alli said earlier, Abby has to trust that her defender is not going to lift up her leg where that shot can come back near post. So it's like you have to weigh both options out. So you can't, like you said, Mike, you have to chop up those steps. So if they do come back across, your momentum is not so significant that you can't reverse direction. And I think, again, that's why you have to be very meticulous about what strikers' tendencies are. But just that should give you a good idea and a good picture of what could potentially happen. So set up your legs like that, but also to don't read into it so much where you completely leave yourself vulnerable at the near post.
Yeah, I mean, I think her balance is good enough that if that had cut back, she could have saved it as well. So and that's where balance does come in. And no, there is a minimal amount of you can't guess because they could cut back and it could go through your defender's legs. So if you've overcompensated or if you've sold yourself, you're done. But I think that her balance is what it is, and her feet are fast enough that she could have gone the other direction had she needed to.
Yeah. Alli, I've got a question for you because you were obviously bringing up different steps and different sizes and different speeds and everything like that. Is that something that you encourage young goalkeepers to kind of explore in different scenarios and find out what's going to be effective based on the distance of the play, based on where the ball's coming from, based on runners that might be in dangerous areas, those sorts of things?
Are you talking specifically about, taking extra steps leading into a dive?
Yeah.
I think it is something that we allow them. I allow them to explore, and I do it with open-ended questions. It's like when that ball sneaks past them, it's, hey, do you think you had time to take another step there? It's how do we think that you can assess what's happening, and make those adjustments? Because if I'm like, take another step, that doesn't have any context to it, right? Like when they are imagining themselves taking another step, now they're messing in their head with like, is that a short step? Is that a big step? Like, right. So I totally think that, the real technical part of goalkeeping where I'm like, this is who you are, and this is how your body works, and this is how we're going to adjust this little thing, that doesn't happen till way later on. I'm a pretty big proponent of like, make saves, figure out your body, let's make this more efficient, but kind of figure like just do your thing for maybe longer than most people are comfortable with. Let's give you some fundamentals, let's give you a tool belt, put some tools in it, and then let you build your masterpiece.
No, I agree. I think my terminology is exactly the same. Do you think you could have taken another step there? You know?
Yeah. And sometimes too, I think we were talking about it in our session yesterday about like sometimes when you those big movements across the goal, it's like a 2v1 situation. They play it across. Sometimes those shots that the strikers don't get a clean shot on, and they kind of like the ball starts bouncing and hit different divots on the turf or on the grass. Those are the toughest because you've prepped and you've loaded so heavy to come across that when that shot takes a weird bounce or it's not the normal pattern, you almost have to try and shift your legs out of that heavy position to get your body behind it. And I'm not saying this is what we saw with Abby in this situation, but very similar into like the shot kind of got deflected. It kind of went through a few bodies, so you're not necessarily sure the direct pattern of a slide of the ball. So you almost have to kind of, as best as you can, get your body behind it. But it's just, that delayed half second can cause you trouble sometimes.
Totally. And that's where being balanced is super important. Like she had already taken that step, right? But she still had pretty good ground contact. She was able to get that next kind of quick step in before she had to really go.
Yeah.
And that's sorry, I think, for example, I think that's one of those things like wall sits, like things that you can do in terms of functional training to really build the muscle memory in your legs. I think that stuff is huge. Squats, just doing stuff where your legs feel comfortable being uncomfortable. So like the 90th minute, you have to come up with a save, like you're seeing. I don't know if it's the 90th minute, but in those situations, I'm sure that she has strong enough legs where that balance, it's why you don't see it in preseason as often. You see it throughout the season because your legs become accustomed to those movements, that stopping and starting. So I think if you can really reverse engineer the start of your season and say, look, I know I'm going to need this, go into the gym and start doing functional stuff, hamstring work, just balance stuff. And then I promise you it's going to benefit you throughout the season.
Yeah, it's funny that you said that. So I kind of want to play this play because you were just saying that about the wall sits and having that power with the legs right here. But I want to kind of play this play again. This is actually from the Portland game as well too. Basically, what happens is there's a loss of possession, kind of at the top of the 18, like around, outside of the circle or whatever, and kind of Sinclair. I believe she gets the ball right here. Boom. And she recognizes she's got separation and she just takes a shot. And so I think what happens is Abby kind of recognizes that quickly and she goes from in possession to out of possession, quickly drops for a little bit of depth, takes a slight prep step again to gain momentum and then pushes off him. That's a great save in my opinion. Boom, right there. Let's kind of play that again one more time so everyone can kind of see that here. Drop, push, and out. And just steers it away from trouble. Alli, any thoughts here?
Yeah, I think that's it's another great example of kind of how good her footwork is. She makes good decisions in possession, out of possession. She's very good at that simple kind of back set. She does a really good job of keeping her balance. I think that's something that when you talk about training younger goalkeepers, that's something that you have to train is how to set backwards and how to teaching goalkeepers how to let their legs come out behind them and get set. So in this situation, she's able to do that, get that next extra step in, and get that ball around the bar. That's not an easy save because going backwards and then exploding kind of laterally plus whatever forward momentum you need is difficult. And I think it's a good example of kind of how good her footwork is in these situations.
See what I love about this play right here, what about this scenario right here is that it's showcasing and Alli, I love the fact that you just brought up about the negative. Like sometimes, and I think we've talked about this before, Saskia, is like not every step is always, it's not cookie cutter. Like if you're dropping and the ball's being about to strike and you have to set, well now you're setting negative rather than setting positive just to get your balance again.
Right, but you should always be moving with balance. So you should always, even if you're moving negatively, your body weight still needs to be balanced enough so that if you have to make a forward movement, it's there. You're not retreating with your heels. You're not retreating with your weight back. You're still in a forward position, moving backward. So when she shifts, she can go. Look how much power she gets in this. Look at where she ends up. She ends up like 4 yards outside the post. After retreating, resetting, and look where she is.
Yeah, literally. She's like
at the corner flag. I mean, she just covered like a 14-yard goal, basically. Think about it.
Oh my God, look how far out she is.
Look at where she is.
That's
after the dive, and that's how much power she got to go through the ball to make the save through the ball. right? And that's, and we see a lot of goalkeepers right now that don't get that power, don't get that balance underneath them, don't take their pre-stretch, don't get the footwork underneath them. So this becomes a goal.
Yeah.
Because there's no power, ball blows right through them. But it certainly doesn't. Yeah, and look at where she ends up. Look at the power in that dive. That's awesome.
Yeah. I think also
ahead,
too.
Omar.
There's something to be said as well, and it's something
She should be watching. We're like, yay! We're
And I got to share this with Abby.
Yeah, we're like Team Abby today.
I think something to be said too, and I've told our goalkeepers this is like there's a passive goalkeeper and a present goalkeeper in games. In my opinion, the present goalkeeper is very, very aware of what's happening, and like you're almost hedging your bet, like you're trying to read the positioning of the striker and potentially where they could strike this ball. For example, Sinclair here looks like she was, angling to that direction. Of course, you can't leave the center of the goal, but at the same time, like she almost had her feet prepared to shift and go. So there's only a reason why she was able to dive past the post is because you're present in that moment and you're very, very active in seeing what's happening and the tendencies of the striker. The passive goalkeepers, in my opinion, are those goalkeepers who see a shot and react without any, IQ involved, without really processing what the striker's tendencies are. So in this situation, it looks like, you dive past the post, but again, it shows you being very, very proactive and you're very present in that very moment to see the striker's doing it.
But if you look even before Sinclair faces up, she's already dialed in. Like, if you can see it, because obviously, like, she had already started backing up, already focused on this could be a shot on goal. How do I get myself in the right position? It wasn't like, oh, here comes a shot from Sink. Like, it wasn't like that.
Mm-hmm.
She was already dialed into it.
Yeah.
But so to us, like that's one of those things as well, where I mean, you're not as privy to it at a younger age, but as you get older, you have the scouting reports where like this guy has this girl has that sauce. Like they're gonna put their head down. They might look like they're gonna play it wide, but they're gonna strike from 25, 30 out. So it's like, can we respect every player, not just the ones that we've done research on, that they're probably going to strike from anywhere? Like you said, she's dialed in, but can we respect that with everybody so that we're always dialed in? And I think that's the challenge for some goalkeepers out there who they dial in when the moment's asked of them versus 1 or 2 steps prior where they could have communicated a defender to step in that space, or they could have done, things like that.
Yep. Alli, I have a question for you. Like, do you think that, and I'm asking you obviously because you were involved in the youth game for such a long time as well too. Do you feel that a lot of times we kind of coach these kind of instincts out of young goalkeepers because we're telling them how to step and when to step and all those sorts of things rather than learning how to be instinctual and react in that scenario?
I think you can coach those out of young goalkeepers for sure. I presume that no one on this call does. But it's definitely something that I think younger kids are vulnerable to, especially now. They have access to so much information that it's very easy for there to be a solution for everything, online or on social media or whatever it is, rather than kind of exploring who you are and figuring things out and getting scored on and trying to figure out why and getting scored on again and then making the next change. And so I think that there's a danger of that for sure. But I would hope that with education and coaching education, that especially recently the conversation I think has shifted more to letting kids explore how they're able to make saves and making them make decisions and really be cognizant about why they're doing certain things instead of others.
Yeah, and I think Saskia brings this up all the time, is that it's all gray and every scenario is different, and kids need to recognize that and not try to mimic or replicate a scenario that just happened before, thinking that the action's going to be just as successful this time around. Like, they have to deal with every single situation differently,
I'm laughing because in practice, like the randomest goal got scored, and Lauren was laughing, and I went like this. I was like, "Don't expect me to try to mimic that in training." I was like, "Stop it! I don't know what to tell you right now." I'm like, okay, it just made me think of that. That's funny.
Let's. I want to play this last clip right here. Let's see if I can find this one because I was trying to find different scenarios. So let's see if I can find this one right here. I think this is the one. Just make sure this is this is not the one. This is not the. I don't think this is the one. No, That's a different one.
Alli,
No.
quick question for you while Mike finds this. How often do you guys watch film? Is it normally like -3 or -4 out from the game where you kind of say, look, let's be a little bit more critical?
Of them.
Yes. Let's say training, but maybe I'm sure you watch the film with the full set of goalkeepers, right? So Abby and you, it's not just a personal video; it's everybody watching together.
So there's kind of a cycle. Did you get the fight on there? There's kind of a cycle.
Oh, fight!
I didn't get the whole recording of the fight. That was just part of the highlight.
That was a good one. It was an exciting day. So we watch film. We watch training film more often because it has everyone in it, right? With everybody. We did it more in the beginning of the season when I was kind of sort of learning who they were, and that was part of the conversation of like, here's what I see in this situation. Like, tell me what you see about this or what you think about this. Now, especially with the season where it is, we're kind of in this cycle where we're watching film of the other team going in, and then we sort of base training on that, and then we have the game, and then we're sort of watching film of the player that played, and that kind of circulates around. So there's a little bit less training film sort of at this stage of things, but we do watch a lot. I mean, if I actually had an 8-hour day, then 6 of it would be cutting film and all that. Unfortunately, I have a much longer day and a lot more time spent cutting film. But yeah, it's something that I personally love. It's a tool that I love, so we do spend a lot of time with it.
Omar, I got a question for you because you are Mr. Film Man. Because of the amount of bandwidth that you have, do you have a lot of the film now cut by the team rather than yourself doing it?
No. I do it all. No one knows how to watch goalkeeping film. Like, it's just like, oh, okay, the ball got played into the 18 or to the final third. Okay, that's where it is. I'm like, no, I want to see the full image. Like, where were you? Were you communicating off the corner kick when we had 2v2 when they scored a counterattack? Were you communicating that? So, stuff like that. So I think a lot of people, I'm trying to learn how to watch field player film, but no one's ever asked me and said, hey, can you teach me how to watch goalkeeper stuff? So I'm hoping there's a day where that happens, but I'm not holding my breath.
Well, considering even in the professional scouting softwares, every single time they cut clips for you for goalkeepers, it's still based off a lot of times off the TV, highlights, and they're not shot for the goalkeeper's perspective. So again, like we're trying to show, where Abby's dropping negative and stuff like that, but the camera's not focused on that, so it's hard for us. We have to wait for that little dot to show up on the side of the screen and go, okay, this is the place where we pause, so we can find that.
But even that too, I think that's where, for example, Alex, our goalkeeper now, I showed him footage we played against El Paso, and I said, even though these crosses that are being crossed in, they're not putting them on frame. As they're crossing it, you're being so lazy and in your recovery from the 6 back to your, the crossing starting point, that as they're crossing it, you're getting into your set position. I need you to be proactive, get to your spot early, so now your feet are in the ground. You can go directly to the ball versus set, and then you have to move. That half second can kill you at this level. So it's like you watch that film, and we as coaches, we can see that kind of stuff. And then in the game, or like the footage that you see, from USL or ESPN or whatever, they don't show you that. Like no one talks about it. So I think that's the good part about breaking down your own film.
Yeah. Well, let's I want to play this clip right here. So basically what happens here, this is against Portland again. A lot of clips from this Portland match right here. Was basically, I think Crystal Dunn is being swarmed like crazy here. And then the ball she somehow gets this through ball out to Simone Charlie, who comes in on a 1v1. Abby recognized, I think, right here. I think she recognizes that she can't approach this ball right here. And instead she just shifts to get into a good position. And she, again, this is kind of an example. She's got a little bit of that pulse, but she's still, and she holds her ground. Then takes this slight step right there as that ball's about to be struck, and makes a great reaction save right there. Let's play this in real time so everyone can kind of see how this is. Let's get away from the fight. So play it here. Done to Charlie. Little step, boom, great save right there. Alli, you want to break this down?
Yeah, I think that she does this is a tough decision, right? Because on some hand you can be like, should we be in a staggered stance here? And if she was, which I think would be the wrong thing, then she'd be more inclined to come out when that really wasn't the right decision. So, and on the other end of that, like, should she take a step back, like, or does that open up too much of the goal? I think that there's a sort of a lot of ways that you can skin this. But when it comes down to it, she prioritizes the right thing. She prioritizes being balanced in a set position when the ball is struck. So does she have time to take a half step back here? Yes, but instead she chooses to take that half step to move with the ball and be balanced when it's struck, and get a really good reaction out of it. I think this showcases a couple things. You'll see right in this clip here, like, she's super wide. She's big in frame when she sets, because she sets really wide, and that gives her, a good starting point in situations like this, and kind of what we were talking about before with that prep step, where other keepers, if they set that wide, they can't get a prep step in, because then they're moving their feet back under them in order to move. But she's really, like, her feet are so quick, and she's so balanced in this position, that she's still able, not necessarily in this clip, but in some of the others that we saw, to get that additional step in. There they are.
And they
They absolutely agree. And I notice, and I recognize how wide she go ahead.
And I love this, and I love I think a lot of people will look at this, oh, maybe she should have come or something like that. I think that's absolutely the wrong decision here, because I think she was getting baited to come. And we've talked about that so many times, that there's no way, where are you going to come? That's what she wants. That's what the attacker wants. Come, So what do you do in this motion? Maybe even if she thought in her head, maybe I should have come. But I always say the next best thing is, now what you're going to do is you're going to get in proper position, proper balance, make yourself big, close the angles, let them see you, and stand them up. Force them to beat you here. And that's what she did. And this is a great save, and this is just force them to beat you. Now, remember, we always talk about it. She's under pressure. The forward's under pressure. Your defense is recovering. So, she wants you to make, as the goalkeeper, to make this easy for her. Right? And instead, you didn't. And Michelle Akers, always brought up the same thing. You stand me up in this situation, and then I'm like, oh shit, what do I do now? Like, I was hoping you came at me. I was hoping you did a K-save from 10 yards away, my favorite dumb thing for people to do. But she didn't. She stood her up. She has her balance. And even though for her stance is fine, the wide stance is fine, because her feet are fast enough. For other goalkeepers, maybe not, but probably not. But for her, yes. So I thought she handled this great. Try to beat me. So she couldn't have.
See, and I love, again, just right before the ball is struck, there's just this little step. It's not a hop, it's a little step. Kind of realigns it, develops a little bit of momentum, and almost covers a little bit more of that gap as the ball is hit, so that she's got that bubble covered, basically. Even though she steers it right back into area, there's a player right there to recover that ball right there. Again, there's no runners there. So that, she recognizes that. She recognizes she hits that ball, she pushes it that way. There's no danger there.
And I think it's also important, another point to this is when you are, because what kind of she ends up doing is extending that front leg into what it's almost like a oh, holy words, sorry, they're difficult today, but almost a little bit of an extension. And to do that, she has to push off her back leg. So what you're losing is like any like momentum that she would need to cover like all the way across the goal. But by pushing off of her back leg, she's able to throw her front leg in a way that gets her hand, like to use that to like get her hand up a little bit quicker here as well, to create that extra leverage as she gets up, which is another thing that I like about this.
Yeah, and like I say, like a lot of young keepers out there watching right now, what are other bad decisions? Like, and I bring up the K-save because I hate it, because barely anybody uses it properly, and the ones that do, that's great. But what are you going to go down here? Are you going to get yourself into a position where now this ball that's maybe chest height is going to beat you, but she doesn't, and because she is in a good balanced position, body still big, boom, the hand can stick out, it's in her bubble, and she makes the save. How many goalkeepers do we see assuming that's going to be a near post shot, or committing to going to the ground? So I think it's great.
Yeah,
I love what you said about making Charlie make the decision here, because you're right. As soon as that happens, like, you just take back that little bit of control in the situation.
Absolutely.
And I think, just one last thing, what you're talking about when you were talking about, hey, maybe some goalkeepers, can't be that wide, but it works for her. Again, find what works for you, and you utilize whenever you're for young goalkeeper coaches out there, recognize what works for your goalkeeper and encourage them to keep moving in the way that's successful for them, rather than trying to micromanage how they move. And I think that's really, really, really important, because everyone's built differently, and everyone moves differently.
Yep. Come hang out with my 5 goalkeepers. I love you guys.
Omar, are you here? Did you want to add on to this? I don't know if you're here or if we lost you, because I just see an eye. You there?
No, I'm here. Sorry, my back has been killing me. They made me play on the field today, and my legs and my back.
Wait, you coach at a professional team, right? You've been playing in goal. You've been playing on the field.
Ooh.
Hey,
sure
we're gonna get a call, and he's gonna be starting in the next game. So.
We're playing 11v11. So sorry, my back has been bugging me, and these chairs are killing me. But no, I think again, this is what I would say too from the coach's perspective. Like, coaches out there, be very weary of speaking in absolutes. And I think, for example, here, I think younger Omar would have said, yeah, you're too wide. But again, like we've all been saying, it's whatever works for you in that moment. And again, like you said, with those film sessions, I'm going to watch it with you. And if you understand why you are set the way that you are, or if you don't even know it and you're watching it, tell me, what did you feel in that moment? So again, I have peace of mind knowing that if they did score here and you were wide, at least I have confidence knowing that you know exactly why you put yourself in that position. So I think that's what I would say from that perspective.
Yeah, that's a great point. She knows that she's wide, and it's an intentional decision, as opposed to, oh, I got caught wide. No, it's an intentional decision. So as long as a goalkeeper can, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, but the closer you get, for me at least, I'm going to be wider, just because I'm, not wide enough for my legs. I can't, pick my leg up and direct a kick save, but wide enough because I'm going to need to get lower. It's just that's how your body works. If you're super narrow, there's no way you get down.
And I would tell you that I wasn't a wide stance goalkeeper. At least I don't think I was. I had really fast feet, and I wasn't narrow, but I wasn't that wide. At least I don't think. But I have to go back to the.
I promise you, watch yourself.
I have to go back to the 8.
You'd be like, wait, what?
I have to go back to the 8 millimeters. Hold on. I got to get the little reel going.
Alli, I was trying to find some clips. I was going to use you as the successful actions for breakdowns today, but apparently they've been scrubbed from the internet. I don't know what happened to all the Alli Lipsher.
They're next to Saskia's, except they're way further down because it was never national team footage. It was just WPS footage. Exactly, yeah. It's all on VHS.
Hey, man, sometimes I am actually happy that we didn't have cell phone videos and everything back then, because again, you have to maintain the lore that it was awesome and I did everything right all the time.
Totally.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
Nobody can say differently.
That's right.
Well, guys, as we start kind of wrapping up, and Alli, I'm glad we were finally able to have you kind of back, because it was weird when we had you on. We wanted to ask all these questions, and you're like, I don't. It's all we haven't started training yet, so I don't know what to tell you. We start next week. And we're like, okay, maybe we should have waited a little bit, but it was cool. We were finally able to get a goalkeeping topic going here. Quick question for you. Do you have any advice for any young goalkeepers that are getting caught moving before right when they're right before they set? Because I think that also makes it difficult for a lot of young goalkeepers to get a proper prep step, because they're still moving when they set, and now they're trying to readjust.
Yeah, I think there's a couple different maybe things that you can implement, and I don't know if this works for everyone, and I hope I'm speaking to this correctly, but sometimes having an exhale as you set and right before you catch is really helpful. You'll see keepers that'll set and exhale into every catch that they make, and sometimes tying together some of the physiological actions with a catch action can be really helpful. For me, I tend to tell younger keepers to think about keeping their chin still, because just generally that helps them keep the rest of their body still when they catch. And I think that would extend down to their feet too. as if you're thinking about keeping your chin still when you catch, then that sort of calms the rest of your body a little bit, and potentially could help with timing. But really, it's reps, right? It's go in and figure out why you didn't make this save. You were set too early. You were set too late. Okay, let's adjust and see if we can repeat the service, which is where sometimes volleys, although not necessarily game-like, can be really helpful, just with kind of actions like that, with the repeatability of them, can help you get things like set the timing of your set down, or does this exhale work? Does me thinking about keeping my chin still work? All of those different variables that you can then you have a control, and you can then kind of implement the different variables.
Oh, yeah, I think that also identifying with your play, when, like, you have to see when they're setting. If they're still moving, you're not setting when the ball's struck. Like, if you're setting when the ball's struck, you're late.
Right.
And you've got to identify when that ball becomes in that striking zone, that bubble for the attacker, to when to set. And it's repetition. It is repetition, seeing different passes, seeing how, because, a lot of times you'll see keepers that get caught in that repetition, and somebody hits a ball coming across to the outside of their foot, and they're still moving. So you have to see that your goalkeeper's identifying when to set, when the ball is in that danger zone, when they could toe it, they could outside the foot, they could do anything with it.
Yeah. Omar, the speaker system that's going to start pulsating. Do you have anything?
I
any
love
final
that.
words
It's like a little face, like doonch, doonch, doonch.
No, I think, again, I think also too, in terms of absolutes, like, you're not always going to have a chance to get set. So I think that's also something that as young goalkeepers, when you get super literal with them, it's like, hey, I got to the angle, but then he crossed it. I'm like, well, if he was going to cross it before you got set, couldn't you have slowed your momentum down to at least account, like Saskia was saying, account for something else, the second layer of that play. And I think that's where, in my opinion, as a coach, you need to allow that freedom to the players to allow their imaginations to run wild, of like, hey, if you were a striker, what would you do in this situation? Okay, if that's what they would do, is that set position in a way where you could have accounted for all those different variables? I think that's where, in my opinion, you allow them that creative freedom. And then obviously there's boundaries that you can't cross. You can't be sprinting at the striker. You can't be doing things that get us in trouble. However, if you can explain to me why and it makes sense, then I will be okay with it. But if you explain to me why and it doesn't make sense, then it's a good conversation, if anything.
Yeah, I know. I just said we were just about to wrap up, but Alli, that actually gives me a question for you in regards to, like, if somebody gives you, or Saskia as well too, if somebody gives you an answer for why they did something unorthodox that was effective, are you fine with that? Even if it goes against what you wanted or what your intention was for the play.
I think if there's repeatability to success, then sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there's some things people do that are unorthodox and it works for them, but it could dumb it down and say the way Lauren throws the ball. It works for her. Technically I could go in and tell her to throw it a different way, but the girl can one hop it past midfield with kind of an unorthodox throw, and it's on point. So I'm not changing anything, but they're like, I agree. If there's continued success, then it's a gray area. There's some things though you're doing wrong. So,
exactly.
There's some things. Sorry.
I don't want anyone out there just to be thinking like their next goalkeeper session is just an hour of just letting goalkeepers do whatever they want, whatever you want to do.
But Michael then said that I could do it as long as I had repeated success.
Or as long as I had an answer on why I'm doing it.
Yeah,
So you got a bunch of 8-year-olds telling you why they're diving on their stomach. So oh my gosh. Well, Alli, thanks first off for taking all the time, and obviously, much continued success, with this first season with Casey. Any news on the name? Any updates on that?
No, we're still waiting. Haven't heard a name or a logo or anything like that, but I feel like it's all going to happen at once. So exciting things on the horizon.
I like the logo scheme. I don't mind keeping the logo scheme, the crest and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I like it.
Or the AL. We could do with the AL too. That could be the logo as well too. Just the initials Alli Lipsher. Sure, why not?
Why not?
but no, well, I'm sure it's going to be a great name, and we're excited, obviously, that you guys are obviously in the league and everything like that. If people want to connect with you on social media, or if they want to know more, are you doing any stuff with First Line Football right now?
Yep. A little bit scaled down from what I was doing in Minnesota, but just individual sort of small group sessions, all that stuff. Still doing that here. Yeah.
Great. So where's the best place if people are interested in that in the KC area for them to connect with you?
Facebook, Instagram, all of the things. You want kind of like put things somewhere? Is there something that's helpful, or can you like toss that out? It's all tags on your.
Yeah, you could you could go in the comments section. You could put it. And I can just post it right here on the video right now if you want, or I can put it in the show notes, whatever you want.
When you repost the show, you're going to put it in, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Do that. Perfect.
All right, cool. And obviously, guys, if you want to reach out to Saskia Weber and find out more about what the phenomenal match she's going to have against Pepperdine tomorrow, at Saskia_Weber on all social media platforms, ProGK Academy _ on all social media platforms. Well, not all social media platforms, just on Instagram, that one. Other ones, it's ProGK Academy. For Omar Zini, who just turned himself off mute because he was about to say something like, no, there's no... That's going to be someone different on Twitter.
Hashtag go grandma.
Hashtag go grandma. Contact at InsideThe18media.com if you have a guest suggestion or a topic suggestion, or at Goalkeeper Podcast on all social media platforms. Shout out to, I forgot who it was who suggested the prep step, but thank you for that topic suggestion. Fantastic one. I think it was a really good one. And guys, if you want to reach out to me directly, at Michael Magid on all social medias, or michaelmagidcomedy.com. That is all the time on Inside the 18, and we are out. Later, guys.
Hey!